In today's video, we're talking about how you can create a one-shot manga or comic, perfect for a competition or just for fun. So first of all, what is a one-shot manga? A one-shot manga is a short, single-volume manga with no chapters. A one-shot is typically around 30 pages long, though it can be longer, and it can act as a pilot manga, usually for manga competitions or testing potential ideas before working on a longer manga series. A one-shot can be longer than 30 pages as long as it is still a self-contained story with a beginning, middle, and end, and no chapters. This is why in manga competitions you'll typically see that the requirement is to create a one-shot manga, and this is because it's a really good way to see your work in a single contained story rather than a longer series, and it gives a really good example of your work and your storytelling style. So before you begin creating your manga or comic, it's important to know the purpose. Whether you want to create it for a competition, to test an idea, or as a longer standalone volume, it's really important to understand the purpose behind creating it before you begin creating your one-shot manga. It's also important to note that one-shot manga does not need to have dialogue. You can also create one-shot manga with just artwork and pictures in a silent storytelling method, like what is required in the silent manga audition competition, where you need to create a one-shot manga with no dialogue. Creating a manga for this purpose also changes the way you know your storytelling, so it's very important that before you begin, you understand the purpose and you know why you want to create your one-shot manga. To begin creating your one-shot manga, it's first important to brainstorm. Brainstorm to find the best ideas for your story before you begin creating it. Before you begin, gain ideas on the type of one-shot manga you would like to create, and I recommend reading other one-shot manga or learning more about the style and pacing through research. So the first thing you want to do is research. Research other one-shot manga. Pay attention to the style of storytelling, the genre, the pacing, and the number of pages in that particular one-shot manga. Then you also want to read a variety of one-shot manga to learn more about the structure and style. Because it is a self-contained story, usually a one-shot manga will be much faster in the pacing and the storytelling than in longer serialized work. So it's important to study and learn from your favorite one-shot manga in order to help you understand exactly how you want to create your own one-shot manga. And then you want to imagine. As you gain new ideas, try to imagine if they would work as a simple plot with a beginning, middle, and end. When you create your one-shot manga, you want to try and avoid having ideas that seem too complex. The purpose of a one-shot manga is to tell a self-contained story, so you want to ensure that when you create an idea, it's something that is simple enough to make sense for a short story, but it also is something that can make a really exciting short story. It is possible to choose an idea that is good while still being simplistic. You also want to find your target audience. Know the target audience before you begin creating your one-shot manga. This can help your manga to appeal to the right reader. Manga is usually divided into demographics, which are shoujo manga, and shoujo is a demographic of manga typically for a target audience of teenage girls aged 12 to 18. Shoujo manga usually focuses on romance and drama revolving around the daily life of the protagonist. And then you have shonen manga. Shonen is a demographic of manga typically for a target audience of teenage boys aged 12 to 18. Shonen manga usually focuses on action and adventure, going on a quest while overcoming challenges along the way. You also have josei. Josei is a demographic of manga typically for a target audience of adult women aged 18 and over, and these stories are usually more serious and mature with a focus on realistic romance, life challenges, and relationships. And then you have seinen. Seinen is a demographic of manga typically for a target audience of adult males aged 18 or over, and these stories usually focus on a more complex or mature plot and may contain darker or more serious storylines. It usually has a more psychological focus than shonen. And then you have kodomo. Kodomo is a demographic of manga typically for a target audience of children under the age of 10, and these stories are light-hearted, fun, and can also sometimes be educational. So when you begin creating your one-shot manga, it's helpful to know the target audience before you begin creating it. While you don't need to fully focus your attention on making it suitable for the right target audience, having a target audience to focus on can help you to know what kind of demographic you're writing your story for. Whether it is shonen, shoujo, josei, seinen, or kodomo, these different storytelling styles can change the way that you create your one-shot manga. Next, you want to create a plan. Begin by planning your one-shot manga. Remember that a one-shot manga is a contained story in a single volume. Therefore, your story plan should be simple and not too overcomplicated. To help you do this, we're going to be taking a look at the Kishotenketsu Japanese writing structure commonly used in Japanese literature, including manga. So the Kishotenketsu style is as follows. It starts with Ki, the introduction. Begin by introducing your main characters, the setting, and the goals of the story. 2. Sho, development. Continuing from the introduction, expand on the plot points, developing it into a story. 3. Ten, twist. So create an unexpected or surprising situation in order to shift the direction of the story, presenting the plot in a new light. And finally, 4. Ketsu, the conclusion. Finalize all the plot points, bringing the story to a resolution. This writing structure is used to plan many one-shot manga as it is simple yet allows room for so many potential creative possibilities. When you begin creating your one-shot manga and creating a plan for it, a very helpful technique is to try and summarize your story in one sentence. This can help you to know whether your story is simple enough to be suitable for a one-shot manga, but also has everything it needs to be a good story. So let's take a look at an example of the one-sentence method. The main character goes on a quest to find the lost diamond amulet, only to discover that they were deceived and that the amulet had been hidden within them all along. Okay, so it's a little bit cliche, but it does work as a good example. If you are unable to condense your plot into a single sentence, it might mean that your plan is a bit too complex for a one-shot manga. In this instance, try simplifying your story idea instead. Remember that if you like a story idea in your one-shot manga, you can always expand on it later and turn it into a longer series. Next, you want to design your characters. Draw the designs for the main characters in your one-shot manga. The designs and style are very dependent on the target audience you chose. For example, a character in a kodomo manga for children may be more simplified and colorful than a character in a seinen manga. Here are some tips to help you design good characters for your one-shot manga. You want to have the eye-catching element. Every character will usually have one main eye-catching element in their design, whether it be a specific component of their outfit, an accessory, or even their hairstyle. You also want to give your designs personality and purpose. A design should make sense for the character's personality. It should also have a purpose in the story. For example, if the character needs to survive in a harsh environment, then they would likely wear clothes that are more easy to move in or camouflaged for their surroundings. You also want to consider the silhouette of your character's designs. A good character always has a good silhouette. When you turn your design into a solid shape, see if the character is still identifiable. If it is, then that design is great. But if not, try adding more elements to your character's design to make them more recognizable in silhouette form. It's also important to note that there isn't a specific number of characters you need for your one-shot manga, and this can really vary, because as one-shots are very simplified, usually you'll only have enough room for 1 or 2 major characters and maybe some supporting characters. So the amount of characters you include in your one-shot does not have to be a specific number as long as those characters are well written and intriguing in their design. Next, you want to write a script. Next, write the script for your one-shot manga, and this script can be as detailed or as complex as you would prefer. Let's take a look at a few different script writing techniques. So here's example number 1. Now keep in mind with each of these examples that it doesn't matter which one you choose as long as you choose a script writing technique that works best for you. This particular writing method is one that I used for my own graphic novel, Having Faith. And this is a script writing example of something that I wrote from it. For this particular method, you write the directions and art descriptions in a separate line, and then when you write the character's dialogue, you write the character's name and then their dialogue on an indent. So example number 2, this is where you describe what happens in each panel. So write the descriptions of the art in each panel and the amount of panels on the page. Write the character's name and then their dialogue. Include any additional details sorted into each panel. And then example 3 is based on more of a professional screenwriting technique. So in this one, you're basically following the professional methods of writing a screenplay. Start by describing the setting and introducing the characters in the scene, and then write the character's name and their dialogue on separate lines. So basically the script writing technique that you use really comes down to what you prefer as the writer, and as long as you can understand what is happening in each panel and what each character is saying, then it does work as a script. This also comes down to whether or not you're the only one working on your one-shot manga, or if you are working with an artist. If you are working with an artist, you would likely need your script and the descriptions to be a lot clearer than if you were creating it yourself and doing the art and storyboarding yourself as well. So this brings me to the next part of the process, which is storyboarding. Once you have written your script with your preferred technique, it is now time to storyboard. Storyboarding is when you create a rough draft of your manga pages in order to read it before finalizing the artwork. So first decide on the number of pages you want to include in your one-shot, then sketch the panel layout, including the character placement and speech bubbles in the sketches. Write your dialogue in the speech bubbles and read through your one-shot so you can adjust and make changes to the storyboards before finalizing your work. Once you've read through your storyboards and are satisfied with the layout and design of your pages, it is now time to finalize your artwork. You can do this digitally or traditionally. So let's first talk about finalizing your one-shot manga pages with traditional manga inking styles. If you are inking your manga pages traditionally, you will need an inking pen with a 0.2 nib, an inking pen with a 0.5 nib, a mechanical pencil for sketching, black pens for shading darker areas, screen tones or grey pens and pencils, white gel pen for highlights, paper. Japanese manga traditionally uses B4 paper, however you can use A4 or A5 paper with a size chart like the one available for free on my website. You can also use a ruler and an eraser or correction pen. Start by sketching the layout of your manga page based on your storyboards. Once you have sketched your page, ink the panels using an inking pen with a 0.5 nib. Then ink the smaller details using an inking pen with a 0.2 nib. Add shading using screen tones or grey pens and pencils. You can also use cross-hatching techniques to add some texture. Here is an example of a manga page I drew many years ago for my graphic novel Having Faith, back when it was going to be traditional and not digital. Now let's talk about digital manga inking. If inking your manga pages digitally, you will need a digital drawing software. There are free options such as Medibang Paint or Krita, and paid options such as Clip Studio Paint or Paint Tool Sai. There are many options other than these, so do some research to find the program that works best for you and that you like the most. And as an optional, an image editing software such as Paint.net for resizing the pages and adding text can be helpful if your program is not specifically good at editing the pages after you have drawn them. You can also, of course, use something like Adobe Photoshop for this as well. Start by sketching the pages in your drawing program or traditionally, and then scanning them onto your computer. Then ink the borders with a straight line tool and ink the smaller details with the digital inking pen. Use screen tone textures to add shading to the manga page and add solid black shading in some areas for contrast. Once your page is complete, resize it and add text or sound effects to finalize it. There is also mixed media techniques you can use as well, which is where you will traditionally sketch and draw your manga page, ink it traditionally, and then you might scan it onto computer and add the screen tones digitally. Whichever inking method you prefer, it's important to find the style that works best for you and that you enjoy for creating your own one-shot manga. Once you have finished inking and creating your one-shot, it is now time to publish it. A one-shot manga can be shared in a wide variety of ways. You may intend to submit your one-shot manga to a manga competition, such as Silent Manga Audition. You may also release your one-shot manga online or self-publish it in a single contained volume. Or you may like to continue to create one-shot manga just for fun in order to help you practice your techniques to find the perfect idea for a longer series. Whether you want to create your one-shot manga just for fun or for a competition or to challenge yourself before creating a longer work, creating one-shot manga is a great way to gain practice and new ideas before creating a longer series. Thank you so much for watching my video today, everyone. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please let me know in the comment section down below. Let me know what kind of one-shot manga you're creating because I would love to hear about it, and I'm sure other people would love to hear about it too. Check out my website midnightscross.com for resources, templates and workbooks that can help you to level up your story. Again, thank you so much for watching. I hope you have an amazing day and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!